have at first, right? Because I'm seeing the challenges right now. I'm seeing that I'm now seeing the terrible toddler years.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So
man,
he's one, and
the nose and stuff like that. So as a mother, me personally, definitely battled depression. I was diagnosed with severe depression at 7.5 months pregnant, which a lot of people don't know because I do a lot of things in private. Most of my life I do in private. And I just remember like crying almost every day. I didn't want to leave my room. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed that I was pregnant. So I just hid myself, and it was so hard just to figure out what do I like about Raeveon, because at that point I liked nothing. I remember looking in the mirror, I was like, there's nothing good I can say, because I felt so much shame and so much like, just God, like, this is the life you're choosing, right? Like, and especially because my son's father and I are not in a relationship. And we were at the end of our relationship when our son was coming. So it was definitely long nights. And I would say it took me about 4 years to come out on the other side.
Oh, wow.
Of the rainbow, and dance helped me do that.
No, that's that's a very tough time, because I realized with Patty's my fiance, and she went through postpartum depression, of course, and depression's a very like, now it's becoming a sensitive subject to me a lot now, because my dad, before he passed, he had depression. I feel like that sped up the process of his death. Unfortunately, Matt, he also went through that too. Yeah. And also seeing with Patty, and then we just, I don't know if you know, Raeveon, I posted on Facebook not too long ago, but we just went through a miscarriage as well.
Yeah, and I did. My condolences. So
so it hasn't been a good year for Patty and me, more so for Patty, because it's definitely it's a different connection for a mom, with a child who's they're carrying it for 9 months, and it's definitely something that, like, it's an eye opener for me, of like try to help out, on the mental health issue, try to make that more realization that, like, we need to get more help on this issue, because we could be diagnosed with like a certain condition or anything like that, but I think it's the mental state that we have that can really you speed up the process of physically. And if luckily for you, like, even though it took a while, 4 years, you were still able to see something out of it. You know what I mean? You were still able to see another door.
If it wasn't for, I had a great OB back at home, and they wanted to medicate me. That's how bad it was, because they were like, your postpartum is going to be terrible. And I was like, I don't want to be that mom. I didn't want to be the high mom or something like that. And so she was like, you have to go to therapy. And that is honestly one of the things that saved me, because it's just being able to have an unbiased party, and you sitting there and they're not judging you. And when I felt like I couldn't go to my mom, and not saying my mom isn't great, but it was just, I didn't think she was going to understand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Mom, like, and I didn't know how to describe what I was feeling and what I was going through, because, I should be excited. Like, I just gave birth, and I wasn't. And so but I also knew I wanted it. So I fought for it.
That's good.
I fought like hell. And I fought like hell, I fought like hell. And it can't take, I always say, it doesn't deserve me again. Depression doesn't deserve me again. So therefore, I'm not going to give it anymore.
Wow, that's really good to say like that. Depression, okay. Depression doesn't deserve me like that.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a very powerful statement right there. And so, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. And I think with my story, and then when we see our loved ones not necessarily lose, but be overcome with it, where it's so heavy on them, I feel like it gives me even more motivation. Like, now I really can't stop, because they didn't deserve them either. But unfortunately, this is the life we're in, and it's a scary place to be. And I feel like sometimes we just need people to know, like, there is somebody that will help you. Just know that we're here. Like, I feel like on Facebook, anything I post, my SCBA friends are the first ones on it. They're the first ones to support, first one to like something or congratulate, or we're here for you. And we really do mean that. And I think we really saw that with Matt's death. which I still deal with, and I'm just tearing up thinking about it.
Yeah. No, trust me, it's
Yeah,
hard. It's hard to find a fathom for me. There's some days where, of course, we're in a soft subject, but Matt was a big part of the show, and he's been a big part of me, as my growth as a man now, and he's definitely someone that I live up to. It's kind of like what you said, like, I have to live up for him. This podcast has to continue living up for him, because that's what he would have wanted. And and speaking of what you said about the therapy, when my dad passed away, I was a little, I was definitely not in a good state. But what definitely helped me to kind of keep my head in track was staying in like groups, therapy kind of groups, people who are kind of like in the same similar situation. I know at first it kind of seems scary. You kind of like, you don't want to go because you don't know what to expect, because you're in a way, you're in denial about your state of mind. Like, no, I'm fine. I got this. Like, I just got to get over it. And, you're in denial that you yourself needs help, and that's also a great way for like other listeners who are listening, who is going through a tough time or know someone that goes through a tough time. It's okay to talk to people who are in the same relations as you, Enter a group, have a therapy session with psychologists or whatnot. It's kind of what Matt said a while back. You have to express it out. You have to express it out. You can't leave it in. I've practiced a lot of expressing out this last year, and I think that's helped me being sane for the most part. Of like accepting what has happened to me in the past, and not letting that be like defining me as well. And so I'm glad that you bring that up about that, because I honestly didn't know that you went through all that. I thought Raeveon was killing it these years,
I mean, I keep a smile on my face because it can always be worse. So I'm gonna be happy about where I'm at, because it could be worse, but I'm not there. And that was preached to us in our house. So it could always be worse. So while I'm here, I'm gonna still be happy, because if I'm alive, my son's alive, my family's great, I've roofed on my head, things like that. I really just find the small things to be grateful for. And that's what kind of just keeps me going. And, you never know like who needed a smile that day. So it could be me to give you one. I'm glad you have to do that,